So the next gear, kind of the last one that I want to visit with you about before we move into the Q&A, is about other organizations. So outside of foundations and donations, memberships, and state organizations, we have other organizations and agencies who have contributed to our success and that some we have continued relationships with. These are three organizations that we have had relationships with on and off over the years. The Office on Women's Health, for those of you who have been around for a while, may recall the days where they had small grants, like $2,500, that they would give out for project-specific work. And so we received one of those to help us with the business case for breastfeeding, obviously. And we received another one in 2013 to start our child care provider. And it was only $2,500, which I know I say only, but at the time that was a huge amount for us. And it was exactly the right amount for us to partner with the Indiana Perinatal Network to build off of what they had created and for us to be able to adapt it to Kansas and make it work for us in Kansas. So We Care for Breastfed Babies resulted from the partnership with Indiana Perinatal Network, but most importantly from the funding that we received from the Office on Women's Health, which was really a fairly small amount, $2,500, but it was exactly what we needed to get started. The March of Dimes, we have had varying opportunities with funding with them on and off over the years. The most recent one was they funded 2 of our Breastfeeding 101s, which is our term for basic breastfeeding training. It's about a 5-hour curriculum open to anyone in the community. We have extension agents and home visitors, and we have people from school districts, and they're funding 2 of those trainings in 2 of our largest metropolitan counties. And then we also received funding from Astepin, which was, you can see they formerly had extra letters in their name, but back in 2012, 2013, they funded a nutrition and physical activity collaborative for us as well. And this is a story of a rather large funding mechanism that we received, and I'm just going to go over it just fairly quickly because I know we want to have time for Q&A, but it began with the state of Kansas receiving a federal Healthy Start grant in 2014. So it was a federal HRSA grant, a Healthy Start grant. Rachel, actually, her bureau wrote the grant and received the funding, and it went specifically to one county in Kansas, Geary County. And they created a perinatal collaborative. But because of our relationship with Rachel, she knew that we were working on those community supporting breastfeeding, that multifaceted support. And because of that, she made sure we were connected with the newly formed Geary County Perinatal Collaborative. And for 2 years, we did very intensive work with them to help them achieve this designation. And so that would not have come about if we had not had a relationship with Rachel. And when this federal funding mechanism came through her bureau, that she thought of us to help them with this specific aspect of their grant. So here's a list of other sources of funding that we have received over the years. Some have been smaller and larger than others. I love my Oral Health Kansas folks. They needed some help creating a fact sheet. And we didn't have the capacity for somebody to do the intense research that they were wanting done. And I said, hey, if you would like some help with this, we're going to need some funding for our time. And they're like, sure. And it was not a very large amount, but it was exactly what we needed to get that work done to allow for someone's time to work with them on that project. So sometimes don't be shy to ask your partners for some funding. If they want you to collaborate, collaborating for free sometimes is the best way to get things started, but you may not always have the capacity to collaborate. If you don't, I think it's okay to be honest and to say, you know, with a little bit of funding, you have to recognize we are a volunteer organization. And for me meeting with you for 5 times for 3 hours each to go through the research and create this fact sheet, I'm not getting compensated for that. Is there some funding that you have for creating this product? So that's just one story. But you can see this is a pretty diverse list of partners here from other sources of funding. And we're really fortunate to have on the line with us Mel Huddleston with the Kansas chapter of the American Academy of Pediatricians, the AAP. So Mel, are you still with us? Are you there?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you just great. So I'd like everybody to be able to benefit from listening to Mel talk about our partnership around this designation. So Mel, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Brenda. First, I'll have to apologize. I work from home and a UPS truck just decided to drive down my street, so my dog might be howling in the background. So hopefully that won't be too distracting. Um, but yeah, so I work with the Kansas chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and I first met Brenda when we were both working on a Kansas breastfeeding summit that was being put on by two foundations in our state. And through working on the planning committee for that summit, I came to learn about how knowledgeable Brenda was, not only about breastfeeding, but really how she seemed to have her pulse on really what was going on in our state and where resources were needed and really what was going on. And she just had a really good feel for that whole area. And so also during that breastfeeding summit, it became pretty obvious that we needed to be educating providers, physicians, and family physicians and pediatricians about really doing more to support breastfeeding mothers. And so we applied for a grant through the United Methodist Health Ministries Fund to educate providers because they really, as it turns out, are not, they don't get much education in residency, and most physicians who are really good at breastfeeding support are the ones who breastfed many babies. And so that doesn't include everybody, especially men who are physicians. And so so when we applied for this grant, we knew that while we could provide access to physicians and practices and doctors' offices, we really, our members probably didn't have the resources to put together the training and the toolkit and the information that we actually wanted to push out to these physicians. And so knowing that Brenda and the Breastfeeding Coalition had that information and that was really their strength, was knowing what these physicians needed to know, that's why we reached out to the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition to partner with us on this grant. We decided to name it the Kansas Breastfeeding Friendly Practice Designation, and we met with four, I think there were three or four of you guys, I can't remember, 3 or 4 members of the Breastfeeding Coalition, several times, about monthly, for about 6 months to put together a toolkit for physicians of useful, helpful information for them to provide to parents and their staff. And we also put together an on-site training that we go out and we do at the doctor's offices. And so it was really, I just felt like it was a great partnership. We also had a pediatrician and then myself as part of our collaborating group putting this project together. And so it was great understanding, we had the physician in the room who was, kind of telling us what was realistic and possible for them to really do to promote breastfeeding. But then we also had the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition letting us know really what the gold standard would be and what, they would like to see happen. And so it was just really great having the right people in the room to really put this project together, and it has been really well received. Once our grant was awarded, however, we did go ahead and write up a contract, just very clearly stating, what we expected or what we would like for the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition to provide. And again, that was their expertise in really putting this project together, and in which part we were going to put together. And so that is always important when you have partners like this, is just that everybody can understand up front what duties everybody is going to handle and then what the compensation is going to be. And so that was a really helpful piece as well, understanding who was doing what. And then a really big part of this project, and another big piece that we realized that the Breastfeeding Coalition could offer that we obviously could not, was every time we go into a practice throughout the state, Brenda contacts the local Breastfeeding Coalition, and they have a representative attend the training and let the physicians know and the nurses what resources are available in their community. And that has probably been, beyond the education that we provide, that has been really the most useful piece of this whole project, is partnering up these physicians with the local resources, because first of all, they love knowing that they don't have to know everything, that there is somebody around who really can provide the support that their patients and their mothers need. But they also, most of the time, they had no idea that those resources existed. And so it's just been really great to see those partnerships throughout the state come together just because of this project. And we would not have had access to those people without going through the Breastfeeding Coalition. So it's been really great being able to use their network and our network together to really strengthen breastfeeding support throughout the state. And so I guess if I were to give advice on reaching out to organizations like ours, I just, first of all, networking is huge. I would not have even really known the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition was around if I had not been a part of the planning meetings for that summit. And I really wouldn't have understood, the wealth of knowledge that they could provide us for this grant. I'm not sure we would have reached out to them if we hadn't met and known what they did. And then, and just always understanding, what everybody's strengths are. Like I said, our strengths are kind of being able to network with the physicians and the practices on that side. But we did understand that, we could not provide the education piece that the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition could offer our project. And so we always try to just, find the right people for the right project so that we are, having the most impact on our members and then, of course, the families that they serve.